So they didn't get the walk of the governor out of his house because he agreed. First he was like, is this a joke? And then he realized it wasn't, and he got dressed in his sweatsuit.
So he looked better than the lawyer guy that you...
Yeah, the dryer. Wow. So
can we talk about the car czar?
The car czar?
What a joke.
Okay, what about the car czar?
I thought it was a czarina.
Mike Maslansky?
Well, first apparently this guy has no power, whoever it's going to be, right? So they're trying to suggest that in this bailout where they're imposing these incredibly harsh conditions, they've appointed somebody to watch over all the car companies who can't actually do anything. So at some level, it's a joke.
But he would have responsibility.
Well, he's supposed to kind of review.
And that's always worked out really well because Congress has had responsibility.
Right.
They had responsibility early on in this whole financial mess. They had responsibility to watch the $700 billion. The GAO came out last week and said, we don't know really where it went. So, and the thing that besides the fact that I've been against every bailout up until this point, is that they're giving them, they have not seen the company's plans for restructuring. Right. They're giving them this money. Then the car czar comes back and I guess looks at the plans after they've been given the money because they could get the money this week and get it, I guess, the shot in the arm as early as next week. How many banks, if you and I go in, any of us, to get a loan for $1 million house, we'll say we'll show you the plans later, just give me the money today? I mean, I guess that's how we got ourselves into that problem because that's what banks were doing. But when are we going to learn our lesson?
We did it. There was no banking and insurance czar looking over AIG's $124 billion.
Another $10 billion yesterday?
Nothing, you know? I mean,
but look, I mean, you've got I think with the car companies, it is clear that these car companies are surviving, that the industry in America is going to survive or fail based on whether the government steps in, right? And the industry has been ailing forever. There are problems that everyone knows about, that everyone talks about all day long. They've got too many brands, the unions are overcompensated, and they've got a management in there that has allowed this to go on for a long time. And this bailout package is going to be it's going to be implemented without actually imposing a restructuring on that.
But this is not a bailout package. In fact, it's a bridge loan.
Yeah. Because
this only is like this $15 billion may be like taking bubble gum and sticking it in a crack in the Hoover Dam.
The number
it is.
It's nothing.
A bridge loan to nowhere. How are they going to pay us back? Credit markets are frozen. People aren't buying cars.
Right.
It's just we're just postponing the inevitable. We're keeping them, in their jobs.
Not to get ahead of
through
ourselves,
Christmas
though, Andrea, the Senate approved, right? The Senate late last night approved a tentative bailout deal for the automakers. The House is meeting today, started meeting allegedly 15 minutes ago. And it's not clear if they're going to move on this today, but it's not a done deal yet, but the Senate has approved something and the House now is going to meet and discuss it.
Well,
and shame on Bush
for... There's a couple of people who are talking about coming to doing something procedural to stand in the way of this thing happening.
Filibuster.
And if they filibuster, the issue is that these auto companies need this money, like when you say this week, and a delay of 2 weeks or 3 weeks or into the new session could be.
But all it means is that they go bankrupt.
Yep.
And that may be as bad as they say.
Continental Airlines went bankrupt twice. And if they wouldn't have gotten their act together. If the government would have thrown them money, they'd still have the problems that they had. There wouldn't be a book about them from worst to first.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just...
I love Continental Airlines. I have to say, I fly them all the time.
I do too.
I don't think the automakers would have ever thought to go to Washington to ask for any money if the government hadn't started this whole bailout process in the first place for the banks and the insurance companies. The automakers never would have gone to D.C. and asked for a bailout.
Well, I think
So what would they have done if there hadn't been a bailout for anyone else in the first place? They would have either gone bankrupt or figured out a way to tighten their belt.
But somebody did go bankrupt, right? Lehman Brothers did go bankrupt. And at the end of the day, the fallout from that, nobody understood at all what the depth of the contamination of these toxic derivatives were. And it took that happening. And I think that everybody sat there and went, whoa, if we let something that's even bigger than that happen, And now you're faced with the auto industry, with the current economic crisis, the current recession, in the making worldwide, and everybody is rightfully so frightened about what does bankruptcy mean and what does that mean in unemployment. And the fact is that while something may have been good at a time in the past, given the current economic backdrop, perhaps you have to do something to prop them up.
But what I don't understand is why Congress isn't saying, look, I guess I do understand, but what floors me is that Congress isn't saying, look, here's what a restructured industry looks like. Hand them Toyota's business plan in America. Say, look, this is what it needs to look like. Make it happen, right? Get your staff costs, your employee costs down to this level. Cut your brands. Make these changes. Just here, the business plan already exists. Toyota, can we borrow yours?
One of the GM executives was on Fox News yesterday morning talking about why they're having problems, and one of his statements was that Toyota doesn't have the length of history that they do. They've got 4 retirees to every one, I guess, of Toyota that they have to pay pension to.
That's right.
So that's one of the reasons why their costs are higher.
Right, and that's why this thing goes through Congress, because it comes down to there's a car dealership in my town. There are these retired people who are on that, and it goes Tip O'Neill. All politics is local.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's about. It's all local. It's much more local than the bailout of AIG,
Joe,
which is Wall Street.
When you saw when you heard about the executives flying in to ask for money on their private jets,
bad, wrong.
Yeah.
At least you could argue. I mean, I've been against every bailout, but the workers in GM. If you're going to ask me to rank all of them, I don't think we should bail anyone out. But if you ask me to rank them, you look at that compared to AIG and the Wall Street executives. I mean, some of these guys working for Ford, the majority of them, they don't deserve to lose their jobs. A lot of people in Wall Street, they do deserve to lose their jobs. And I think, Bill Kristol had a really good column this weekend on the fact that Republicans, we're facing the largest increase in government, and it's happening so fast. Republicans, and the people seem to want it. So how do Republicans run on small government?
Well, the Republicans were big government. I mean,
right,
Republicans,
exactly.
they're responsible for
as a party,
everything up to the bailout.
Which is shameful. And it's shameful that, Bush needs to just go away.
The market likes the bailout plan, by the way. The Dow's up 144. And that was one of the things that was on the wires overnight, that one of the reasons why the futures were up is because, for whatever reason, Wall Street likes the idea of these big three getting some extra cash.
Nobody wants to face the prospect of a bankruptcy and what that would mean. And the fact of the matter is that, in fact, I would submit that this $15 billion rescue package and this 3 or 4 month window to get it done is that window. It's basically restructuring without having to call it bankruptcy or Chapter 11.
Except I agree, and I support the idea of a bailout, but I think it should be done. I think it's got to be more than just money. It's got to restructure the industry, and I don't see any of that happening.
And I don't see, to your point, the cars are being able to monitor compliance and really, govern with an iron fist. I just don't see it. I don't trust Congress. They got us into this mess. Looking at government to get us out of this mess is just a colossal mistake.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to switch back to the Blagojevich thing. We have an interview with Representative Mark Kirk from Illinois. You have that about what they're going to do about Blagojevich.
There are 3 sauce. Which one do you want?